Hi, welcome to videomathlessons.com. This is an Algebra 2 and Trigonometry quick lesson. This is lesson number 6, quadratics, how to write the equation if you're given the roots. So let's jump right into it. Number 1 says write a quadratic equation such that the sum of its roots is -5 and the product is 6. What are the roots of this equation? Alright, so they want two things in this problem. So first off, what we're going to is first we got to figure out how to write the equation. Well, they give us a clue here. They use the words sum and product, and we have two formulas you need to know. So it says the sum of the roots equals -b over a, and product of the roots is equal to c over a. Those are two formulas you must memorize. So now it says the sum is -5. So this is going to equal -5. Now the trick with the sum, it already has a negative in the problem, so you got to be extra careful. It's tricky on this one. Product is 6, so it's 6 over 1. Oh, and this -5 over a, let's fix that. It's not really an a. It's -5 over 1. Now when we look at this problem, we can see clearly that a has to be 1 because both the bottoms are 1. B is tricky. It's the opposite of what you see. So instead of saying -5, it's a +5. C is 6. So now I can write this equation as 1x squared. Now remember, quadratic is written in this form: ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. That's a quadratic form, quadratic equation in standard form. And I'm going to plug in. Now I don't have to write the 1, so I'm not going to write the 1. So it's x squared plus 5x plus 6 equals 0. That's the equation. And the next part was, what are the roots? So I'm just going to factor this problem. So it's going to be x plus, now you got to be careful, tricky on 6, factoring 6's, that two things make a 5. It could be a 3 and a 2 or a 6 and 1. There's no negative, so it can't be 6 and 1. So it has to be 3 and 2. So it's x plus 3, x plus 2. And I can check this. Plus 3 plus 2 is 5. Multiply, you get 6. Solve it. X equals -3. X equals -2. These are the roots. This is the equation. Next one. For what equation does the sum of the roots equals 3/4 and the product of the roots equals -2? Well, you could just go through all the multiple choices and follow this formula. I'm gonna do it as if they didn't give us a choice. I'm just gonna fix it. So I'm gonna write down the formulas. Sum equals -b over a, and the product is equal to c over a. Now, the sum is 3/4. So it's 3/4. The product is -2. So I'll call that -2 over 1. The bottoms, the denominators, do not match. So what I have to do is I'm going to fix this one. So the common denominator would be 4. So if I put a 4 downstairs, if I multiply top and bottom by 4, that's going to give me an 8. So now when I look at the problem, I say a is 4, because both the denominators are now 4s. B is tricky, opposite what I see, -3. And C is, don't look at the 2 anymore, it's the 8 downstairs. C is -8. So now I'm going to go through my choices. +4, -3, well, that's not these guys, and a -8. That is choice 3. All right, now we have imaginary. So we're just going to do it exactly the same way. So you're going to find the sum of the roots, and it's going to equal -b over a. You're going to find the product of the roots, which is going to be c over a. All right, so now what I can do is I can just grab my calculator, and I can actually just type these in as a sum and product. So now turn my calculator on, and I have to fix my mode because this calculator is not in A plus BI. If I want to do imaginary, it has to be in A plus BI mode. So now I'm going to type it in. So it's going to be, I'm going to use the parentheses, and I'm going to do 1 plus 3i, and i's over the decimal. plus, because sum means addition, 1 minus 3i. Hit enter, and we get a 2. So the sum of the roots is 2. So I'm going to write 2 over 1. Now I'm going to redo this for product. Now I'm not going to retype the whole thing. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to press second enter, which gives me the line that I just had up there. And if I back up, I can change that plus sign to a multiply. And that means product. Hit enter, I get a 10. So what we have here is the A value is 1. B is opposite, tricky, negative 2. And C is positive 10. Go through the choices. So x squared minus 2x plus a 10 equals 0. Now, if you got desperate on a Regents or something, you could actually do a quadratic formula on all these, and whoever hits the answer, you could just pick it, but that's quite a bit of work. So let's take a look here. Which equation has the complex number 4 minus 3i as a root? So that's one of the roots. Unfortunately, they don't give us a second root. And the reason is you're supposed to know that if it's imaginary, or complex number has imaginary, or if it's a radical and irrational, they come in stuff called conjugate pairs. So take a look at this problem up here. See how this is 1 plus 3i and 1 minus 3i? That's a conjugate, so those are conjugate pairs. So if they tell you one is 4 minus 3i, you need to know the other is 4 plus 3i automatically. That's my other root. So actually I'm going to go to my calculator, and actually I got 3 i's in the back, so this is actually going to be nice for me. So I'm going to press second enter, and I just got to get rid of the 1's and type in 4's on top. So that's the, oops, that's product. That's fine. I can do product first. I get 25. So I got two formulas. Sum, negative b over a. Product, c over a. And the product happens to be 25. So I'll write 25 over 1. Notice there's all 25's in the back of these. So that's a good sign. Second enter. And I got to change that to an addition sign in the middle to do the sum. Hit enter, and we have an 8. Now I see the 8's over here, so these are not my answers. Now notice one's positive, one's negative. That's because tricky on the sum, tricky, that you got to do the opposite. B is negative 8 in this problem, because positive here, so it's negative to start with. So it's a negative 8. I'm looking for that, and it's choice 4. A 1, B negative 8, C is 25. Now here's our last problem. This has radicals, square roots. Notice these are conjugate pairs, and we just mentioned that before. So they want me to do the sum and product. Now I could use my calculator with the radicals, but I could do this by hand. It's not a big deal. So I'm just going to do 3 plus rad 2. I'm just going to line them up. 3 minus rad 2. And I'm going to find the sum. So when I add these together, I get 3 and 3 makes 6. The plus minus cancel out. So the sum is 6. So that's the sum. So I set it to the formula negative b over a for that. Now I'm going to do the product. Now that one I'm just going to a little bit trickier. And I just got to be careful. And just multiply. Distribute. 3 times 3 is 9. Minus 3 rad 2. Plus 3 rad 2. Now positive times. Now I'm going to do this part. So I actually just did all these. I didn't write it down. It's a little sloppy, but that's okay. Now I'm going to do this part. Radical 2 times negative rad 2. Well, positive times negative is negative. Rad 2 is rad 4, which is 2. Middles cancel. Now look, don't get this minus is gone now. So it's 9 subtract 2. I get a 7. And I'll make that over 1. And that is the product. So now I got 6 and 7s, so 7 on the back, so it's not these guys. And then I got to worry about this, the plus minus. Now remember, tricky, tricky, sum. Opposite what you see. So it's -6 is the b value. So when I go up here, I pick the -6, the +7, and that's it. Well, that was a quick video, quick lesson on how to write the equation. So thank you very much for joining me.